You're listening to the Light Novel Podcast. Visit us online at lightnovelpodcast.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Light Novel Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be catching up with a series that we haven't talked about for a while. Some time ago, when I hit around 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, we threw the question out to listeners, what series should we go back and cover some more volumes of? You guys told us, so tonight we're getting caught up and hitting one of those series, and that's going to be Infinite Dendrogram. We're going to be covering volumes 4, 5, 6, and 7 of that series. Volumes 4 and 5 were covered in the anime, so if you've seen the anime, there should be no spoilers for you for those two volumes. However, 6 and 7 were not covered by the anime, and we're going to be talking spoilers, so if you don't like them, don't like spoilers, that is, well, you know what to do. Okay, now, there honestly hasn't been a ton of news, because we've been in the middle of summer, and everything happens at the beginning of summer, and then it's a drought until the end. However, just in the past couple days, there's been a couple of announcements. First off, we had 2 light novels announced by J-Novel Club at Otakuthon's virtual convention. The first one is called I'll Never Set Foot in That House Again. It's by Milligram with illustrations by Yuki Kana. Chelsea may be the eldest daughter of a baron, but her days are spent enduring both verbal and physical abuse from her mother and younger twin sister. However, upon skill appraisal on her 12th birthday, it's discovered that she has a never-before-seen skill, seed creation. Brought to the Royal Research Institute for the investigation of her new skill by the appraiser Glenn, Chelsea's life does a 180. A big room with personal maids, a warm, soft bed to sleep in, and delicious food to increase her mana pool. She's treated like a princess. But of course, her younger sister Margaret won't sit by quietly as Chelsea is pampered. I believe this one's a J-Novel Heart title. Yeah, it's J-Novel Heart. So more of a shoujo, probably budding romance type series. Next up, they announced Fushi no Kami, Rebuilding Civilization Starts with a Village. This one is by Mizumi Amakawa with illustrations by Mai Ogumi. Ash is an 8-year-old boy with apparent past life memories who lives in a remote, deserted village. As he remembers leading a bountiful life, he cannot bear living in a world akin to the Dark Ages, where not even the internal combustion engine exists. For that reason, he needs to consult books containing knowledge from a highly developed ancient culture that is said to have existed far in the past. This is only the beginning of a story about a young boy who sets out to revolutionize the world in order to rebuild civilization and achieve his ideal life. So, kingdom building, light novel Sims.
Sounds a bit like Ascendance of a Bookworm on steroids.
Yeah, right. It's not just good enough that I want to read books. Nah, hell no. I want the combustion engine. I want the internet.
Proper sanitation, yeah.
Well, I mean, I can't really blame him on proper sanitation, honestly, but, you know.
Dude, have you seen, how dirty some of the Dark Ages were? I think I read stories that, in London, they were literally throwing chamber pots out in the streets.
Bro, they still do that, no?
Dude, don't throw your shit out on the... don't throw your shit where everyone's walking.
That's why nobody wants to swim in the Thames, anyway. Okay.
Yeah, isn't the Thames, so fucking polluted that, it's, poisonous?
I think they've cleaned it up a bit, but it used to be pretty horrid, I believe. So, anyway, that's a whole different podcast. Next up, Seven Seas is just in the middle of an event right now where they're announcing a couple of licenses. So we've got the first 2 light novels that they've announced. The first one is from the author of I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. Not too shocking, seeing as how Seven Seas has a number of their books. This one's called I Have a Secret. 5 high school classmates hold secrets close to their hearts, hidden talents, unspoken feelings, and buried pain. Will it take a sixth sense for them to navigate their lives? As they collide with each other on the path to growing up, they might just jostle some of those secrets free. This gentle and intriguing tale is perfect for fans of Yoru Sumino's other nuanced works, including I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, I Had That Same Dream Again, and At Night, I Become a Monster. It almost sounds a little bit like Kokoro Connect to me.
Yeah.
Just that little bit of
I also thought about this at the beginning, but probably not.
Oh, no, I don't think it really is Kokoro Connect, but I'm just saying, like, you know, when you're reading it, it's like they have secrets and it's like a sixth sense or some kind of supernatural thing might start shaking those secrets free.
And
I'm like, whoa.
In the group of students, it's like mixed gender.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that Kokoro Connect is, it has a different tone than what I expect from that author.
Oh, I bet. Oh, I don't disagree at all. I just, like I said, just the gist of it kind of just reminded me a little bit of the gist of Kokoro, but anyway, it's all good. And then the other one that Seven Seas actually just announced today, as we're recording this, is Drugstore in Another World, The Slow Life of a Cheat Pharmacist. Corporate drone Reiji is transported to a fantasy world where he discovers that he can craft potions at a higher level than his rank should allow. Taking advantage of this, Reiji makes a tidy profit, enough to open his own drugstore. An elf who can't aim his bow, give him some eye drops. A dragon who accidentally breathes fire, cough syrup. Reiji's new, relaxing life of making medicine for fantasy creatures is about to begin. So, we've had quite a few, like, potion-type stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the outbreak of COVID has, like, gotten people interested in medicine.
Yeah, I think that was that trend preceded COVID. I would have liked Pharmacist's Monologue instead of this one. I had never heard of this one before.
Yeah,
I was kind of...
I've never seen this either, and it looks like it's got a little bit more of like a Wall-E kind of focus on it.
Well, the cute cat girl, you mean, that's on the cover?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
This one, my first association was Killing Slimes for 300 years, minus the OP-ness of the main character. But we don't know. Maybe he is also OP. But,
well, I mean, like, the whole, like, opening a store thing, right? Like, there's, we have the new one, actually, that just came out today from Seven Seas. The Saint's Power is Omnipotent. Of course, I Shall Survive using potions from Funa. Then there's the new one that's coming out from Yen Press in September. That one, what was it? Banished from the Hero's Party, I Shall Live a Quiet Country Life. And I think that's the same thing. He opens up like a kind of like a pharmacy or something like that in that one.
Then there's The Alchemist Who Survived Dreams of a Quiet Town Life. Right.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. That's another one. Yep. Absolutely.
Apothecary Diaries, which was the Pharmacist Monologue. Square Enix got the manga.
Right. So yeah, it was kind of funny though, because like when they announced this one, they're like, next we've got a title. Oh, and they also got the manga for this one as well. I'll mention that, but it was kind of funny because they were like, we know this title is going to make a lot of you happy, and when I saw it, I was like, I don't even know what this title is.
Yeah, apparently people do, but yeah, I hadn't heard of this one.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, sometimes that's the thing, you're like, sometimes you think to yourself, you're like, oh, I know a lot about light novels. And then you see these companies, they're like, so many people have asked us for this. And we know it's going to make a ton of you happy. And they trot out this title and you're like,
it's probably Japan.
You're like, I have no effing idea what title that is. I've never heard of it before. And like, and you can all, and it's always funny too, because especially Seven Seas, because they announce like almost all their stuff on Twitter, right? And they always do like a tease where it's like they'll announce like, okay, we got another title, and then they'll wait 5 minutes, and then it'll be like, this title I know a lot of you people have been asking for. Wait another 5 minutes, and then they're like. But like, it's always funny to see everybody that's like, this title's been highly asked for, and all you see is Date Alive, Date Alive. Just always makes me laugh. It's just kind of funny. Oh yeah, Bofuri is the new one. It was Date Alive for the long. It was Date Alive and High School DxD for the longest time. Then Yen got DxD, so then it was just Date Alive, and now it's Date Alive and Bofuri are the two that everybody screams about.
I'm still waiting for Date Alive and Bofuri, by the way.
You just had to throw that in there, eh? You and everybody else, Bio. You and everybody else. Although I must admit, I am kind of I like Date Alive. I could, I don't know enough about it to say whether I'm passionate about wanting to read it or not, but the little clips I saw of the Bofuri anime made me think, that's kind of my speed. I like those,
She became like the ultimate tank and terrified fucking everyone.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one. Like, I've been really, I gotta admit, like, I've been really enjoying the more like female main character, dungeon diving, like that kind of stuff. Like, reincarnated as a sword, like with Fran, Tier Moon Empire, which I know isn't dungeon diving, but it's a female character, Deathbound Duke's daughter, then what was, I just finished, I finished Kuma Bear.
Oh, no.
Was that good?
Well, you'll have to wait for my review. No, I'm just Stay tuned to my YouTube channel for the review. You know what, man? Like, it was kind of like Killing Slimes a little bit, in that it was just like so chill, and there was like really no reason to, and I mean, really, it's all kind of the same stuff. You know what I mean? Like, cute girl walks into the Adventurers Guild. All the rough, tough adventurers are like, you shouldn't be here, little girl. Little girl kicks their ass, and then everybody now lives in fear of her. Like, it has all the same stuff. It's just that she wears a bear suit.
Happens all the time.
It's just that she wears a bear suit,
As gimmicks go, that might not be enough to carry the story.
Well, I mean, the only thing that's sort of, the only thing that's slightly, and I mean, this is like a fraction of a percentage difference, is that all of her OP-ness is in the actual suit. Like, she herself is weak as hell. Like, she cannot do a damn thing without the actual suit. So I don't think that I don't get the feeling that the book is ever going to get serious enough that, like, someone will steal the suit and she'll have to figure it out without it. But yeah, it's the only thing that makes it a little different.
It is a very cute suit. Like, it's a very cute bear suit. Like, someone will want it.
Like, come on. It is just like a really fluffy, cute kind of series. That's what it's all about, I don't think that, but yeah, it's definitely not, I wouldn't say it was like overtly original. I think it's just a whole bunch of super cute girls killing monsters and being cute. Like, but I mean, you know what though? Like, I'll say, I mean, again, it's one of those chill light novels, it's like if you just want to relax and read something that just kind of you can check out for a couple of hours, it's not bad, although I personally thought, and I mean, this kind of might sound funny, I personally thought Reincarnated as a Sword was better. But I think that's because I liked Fran as a character, because she was that quiet, strong type. And I mean, even though it did that same thing, cute girl walks in, adventurers give her a hard time. She was so ruthless. Like, she was like next level, like cutting off limbs. I was I was like, oh, she's just going to beat them up. No, it was like a level of brutality that I was, I'm laughing now, and I was laughing when I was reading it, because I was like, damn, girl. So, like, there's ways to still do those kind of tropes, but make them stand out. Anyway.
Holy shit, that sounds metal as fuck.
Well, I mean, have you not read Reincarnated as a Sword? I'm kind of surprised by that.
Not yet. I've been busy with other stuff.
Personally, I didn't like that aspect of Fran's character that much.
Really?
It was a bit too much.
Oh, I don't know, man. There was something about, like, I think it was because it was like that dichotomy of, like, we're so used to seeing, the cute girl be a cute girl, and for her to actually kind of be like, tell the sword, like, yeah, I tried to murder the guys who had me as a slave, but and then like these guys get in her face and she like cuts their legs off. I'm kind of like, I don't know. I was a little bit different.
Hot.
It's okay when she does it to people who are actually evil, but Fran has a tendency to beat up people who are just mildly annoying, and
well, okay, maybe she needs to learn her limits. I've only read the first book, so I don't, I can't speak to her character going forward. Anyway, so those are the 4 books that we've currently had announced. And we were just saying before we started recording, there is Crunchyroll's doing a virtual con early September that I know Yen Yen Press is going to be at. So they're going to probably have a couple of announcements come out of that. So we'll have a couple more light novels announced in the next coming weeks that we'll probably talk about. We'll see what they turn out to be. All right, so Infinite Dendrogram. So we have really kind of 2 distinct stories happening in these 4 volumes. The first one we refer to as Franklin's Game, which of course is the Franklin from the Drife Imperium taking over the Gideon and basically holding it hostage, and our masters fighting a desperate battle to try and save the city. And then we have the second one, which I don't know, what do you guys, is there even a name for that arc? The Lunar Society or the Shield of Miracles? Or
that's the title of the 2 books, of the 2 volumes. I wouldn't say it's one arc. The volume 6 is more or less introducing the character of Tsukuyo and her henchmen, both in real life and in the game. And the end of the last chapter is more or less the introduction to volume 7. It's bit weird.
I kind of see that they're connected, but I guess maybe I just see them as being connected just because there's no way you can really get anything out of volume 7 without having read volume 6. And yeah, you're right, Mirage. Like volume 6 does kind of set up things with volume 7. I guess that's why I kind of see them as being a bit connected, because you really can't have the events happen in volume 7 without volume 6.
I just browsed through volume 6 in preparation for this recording, and I was, in retrospect, I was surprised how little actually happens in this book.
Oh yeah, this book is, it's kind of rough. Like, the 2 villains in this book are both kind of idiots, but they're also just like horrible human beings to an extent. And now, of course, you do find out, a little bit more about Sakuya, which makes you feel a little bit better in 7, but particularly...
Yeah, Sakuya is,
she's correct.
very interesting, let's say the least.
Well, yeah, she is.
And the other character is Rosa. We'll get to her later.
Well, she's volume 7 is Rosa.
You mean B3? Are you talking about B3?
No, Rosa is the KNR. She's the second in command of the KNR PK group. Remember, she's the one that's...
Dude, can I just say I love B3? She's just great.
Like, yeah. And yeah.
She just shows up and she's like, brah.
All right, well, maybe we should start with Franklin's Game first, seeing as though that happens first. I kind of get the feeling like 6 and 7, I think we're going to spend most of the time just talking about the actual characters, because it isn't like super plot heavy, let's be honest. I mean,
no.
Mostly
it's more like set up for more plot.
Yeah.
Like, this is kind of like like there is relevant things that happen, but it isn't like super heavy plot.
Oh no.
It's like
it's like
it's like a filler arc in like One Piece.
Yeah. It's like a Bleach original anime arc, yeah.
Like, shit happens in it, but it isn't really like that important.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, really setting up plot starts happening in volume 8.
Well, that's why we didn't get to 8, because we were like, if we get to 8, then we need to cover beyond 8. So, and chunking 4 books at one time is probably enough. So let's get to Franklin's Game. Let's start there, because obviously a lot of if people have watched the anime of this one, then they'll at least have sort of a good idea of what happens in Franklin's game, because the anime covered it. I haven't had a chance to watch the anime, so I don't know how much they butchered out of it. Anime has a tendency to do that, but yeah. So obviously Franklin's game kind of becomes, it's sort of like the same things. Like you have books 1, 2, and 3 kind of do the whole thing about introducing the world and introducing a bunch of characters. And then you have Franklin's game 5 and 6, where it's like the payoff of all of that, because all those characters that we've been introduced to really become super important in a huge event. Right. So, of course, the whole idea is that the Alter Kingdom is at war with the Drive Imperium. Well, not actually at war currently, but
it's kind of like a Cold War situation.
Yeah.
Like there is hostilities, but they had a war,
yes,
and the countries are like, this is like a cool down period, but it isn't going to last.
Yeah, and it's clear that Franklin's steps here are basically to try and basically crush the Alter Kingdom without having to actually do a quote unquote war, right? It's the whole idea of, if we crush their spirit and crush their infrastructure, then they're useless. We'll just be able to walk in and take over.
Yeah, pretty much, because even though the Kingdom of Alter is in a bad position at the moment, they like a conflict will be a prolonged conflict, because even though the Kingdom of Alter has even though they've lost a bit of infrastructure, they still have an army, they still have like leadership.
Yep.
And they do have masters that are now dedicating themselves to the cause when it comes to round 2. So if they do go to blows...
Did we ever find out why Shu refused to take part
He wasn't
in the war?
He wasn't in the game at the time.
Oh, was he not there? Like he had to log out for a while? Is that what happened?
I don't think it's explicitly stated. But if I remember it correctly, he just wasn't there for real world reasons or something like that.
Okay. Well,
which is very interesting, because that guy basically doesn't leave his house.
Well, that's that's the weird thing, and that's the thing. He's
a no-lifer.
Well,
how do you kill what has no life?
Well, I mean, the other thing is, I kind of get the impression that Shu just seems to do his own thing, right? And I mean, you even get the impression in this one. So, of course, no big shock that Shu is the king of destruction. I mean, duh, like we've pretty much known that.
That's not even a spoiler.
Yeah, well, that's not even it's not even a spoiler. Like, come on, who else was he going to turn out to be? Especially when he's
been playing the game since the game came out. Oh, is he anyone big? Probably.
Well, I mean, when he's using basically a Gatling gun as his embryo's second form or something like that in the first volume, that Shu's probably stupid powerful. There's no, yeah.
Well, there's also the hint of when he is battling the Jiangxi guy. He just stood there, no fucks given. No fucks. Stood right in front of this guy. Well, actually, girl. It's actually a girl. But stood in front of her, no fucks given.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, this is it. And, I think it's funny, because even in the afterward, when they're doing, the characters talking in the afterward, they're she was it's my big reveal. And they're like, dude, nobody's surprised. Come on.
No.
So even the author knew, even the author was obvious. But anyway, still, I was going to say though, you kind of get the impression, I get the impression with Shu that he doesn't really give a crap about a lot of stuff except his brother.
But he does care about Tians. So he's always often shown to protect Tians, so I don't think if he had a choice, he would have refused to participate in that battle.
Well, and that's what I couldn't figure out, because in this one, they basically suggest, so in 4 and 5, they basically say he gets involved in Franklin's game mainly because Franklin messed with Ray. And Marie says that the reason he blew the shit out of that forest to take her out was because she had killed Ray. So they kind of imply that Shu's main thing for getting involved in big scale stuff seems to be Ray, but at the same time, you're right. Like the way that he acts
they
with
say
teens.
that will always get involved if someone picks on Ray, but that doesn't mean he never gets involved for any other reason.
Oh, I agree, and that's why I wondered if I had maybe missed something there, because I was like, I can't remember.
There must be it seems like there's a reason. Like, I think there has to be a reason why he pulled out. Like, I don't think it's anything like... It had to be something big for him to, like, not pull out of the battle.
Yeah, like, it isn't like Tsukuyo, who was basically like, I'll only help you if you give in to my demands, which we'll talk about later, but...
yes, give me more influence.
And later, he also helps, I think, Rook with, his, like, pain training. It's more to, advance him to a new stage of, like, embryo. But, yeah... So he does do some things that aren't just... I mean, ostensibly it's because he's Ray's friend, but for other people.
Yeah. Well, I don't get the impression that Shu is like a jerk. Mm-hmm. Like that, And maybe it's because he's always got kids hanging off of him and he actually seems to be okay with it. But... yeah,
I think the reason why he's helping out Rook is because maybe he is good friends with his brother. Because I've got a younger brother now. Granted, his friends are like way under my age range, but I'm probably going to think a bit more highly of them. It's just like, oh yeah, I know this guy. This is my younger brother's friend. So maybe it's like that. It's just like, hey, this is my friend of my younger brother. He's taking good care of my buddy. I'll help this guy out. Like I think it might be something like that.
Well, his motivations, like I said, they're kind of left a little up in the air because he actually says that to Franklin. He's like, the biggest mistake you made was messing with my brother. Like, I kind of expected him to say something like, the biggest mistake you made was leaving me and Gideon. But I was like, nope, it's because he's pissed off because he was mean to his brother. But that's, I think that's one of the things that I like about Dendrogram that you particularly see in these 4 books, a lot more than in the first 3, is that inclusion of the outside world. Talking about we get a lot more insight in 4 and 5. Like we get to see Rook's backstory. We get to see like Hugo's backstory.
I liked actually Hugo's backstory. And also her connection with Dr. Franklin. I didn't expect that. Like, I actually, when I was reading this book, when I was reading the book, I was like, wait, they're related? Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't expect that. That was actually, cool. I like that. I didn't expect that.
I remember being pretty blindsided by the fact, spoilers, that they were both, well, for the audience, that they were both girls. I was pretty shocked.
I don't know that I was, as surprised with Hugo.
I don't think the fact that they were girls that shocked me. I don't think the fact that they were girls shocked me in the slightest, because, there are literally people who play online games and play as, the opposite gender. Mm-hmm. I've literally done it for some characters I've played on games just for the shits and gigs. You know what, hey, I want to play as, a beautiful woman who blows shit up. Fuck it, for shits and gigs. Yeah. All right? That didn't shock me. It was the fact that they were related shocked me. I'm like, wait, these guys are related? Oh, okay.
I did also, I don't know, I thought, the ultimate, the thing that got, what's his name? Franklin. The thing that got Franklin to leave the family, obviously it was more than just that one thing. But that being what blew it over the top, I thought that was a little much. It was destroying the paper crafts of her grandfather or something like that.
Well, I think
that yeah.
But I think it was a culmination, right? That was just the straw.
Oh yeah, that was the final straw.
Well, because that's the whole thing is because Hugo talks about how her sister had an arranged marriage, right? That they were going to marry her off to some rich dude or whatever. They had set up a marriage for her, and that part of her leaving was because of that. I think it was more because and this is kind of the interesting thing, and again, this is what I really like about Dendrogram is that kind of it gets a lot more into the idea of role playing, as opposed to a lot of other VRMMO books where people are just themselves. You know what I mean? Like when you read Sword Art, like Kirito is Kirito, Asuna is
Yes,
Asuna.
but
You know,
in these games they are mostly or are rarely playing. They are mostly fighting for their survival, and there's hardly any leeway for role playing in such a situation.
well, but
That
I mean,
goes
even like
both
later,
for-
but later on, I mean, okay, admittedly, I'm not saying that there's no justification story wise. I'm just saying most of the VR MMOs that we have, characters aren't really role playing that we see as much, you know? I would say certainly, I would say like maybe Excel World, you get a bit of that. You get a bit, we're actually going to talk about Excel World next, so we won't get too deep into that. We won't get too deep into that, but
there's something about Dendrogram. There are people in Dendrogram who are role playing, and there's some people who are not role playing. And
Yeah.
I think the distinction, or one distinction, is that the people who are not taking the world seriously, are not taking the Tians to be real people like Franklin, they have the leeway to role play. The people who respect and Tians and want to protect them and fight for keeps, they have no leeway to role play. Gray does not role play.
Can I ask? Did Franklin? Does he not believe? Like, he doesn't believe that there's some real aspect to this game. Like,
I don't think he ever says it right out. He says, what he does say, if I recall correctly, is that even if it were the real world, he would do the same thing.
yeah.
Yes,
But he doesn't
that was
say,
crazy.
But he doesn't quite say that he believes that this world is real.
But I will disagree a little bit because I mean the character of Hugo, obviously she's playing a role, and even she said, and even though she's maybe doing
Hugo
a lousy
is
job of it, she does have a definite ideal of what she wants to be and the character that she wants to play.
Yeah, she wants to be this romantic, gentleman.
And a knight, right? Like a knight that is noble and everything else. And so
French knight.
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And so she is role playing, but
The courts of love.
yeah, but she believes that Dendrogram is more than just a game because she's also a maiden master, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I think Dendrogram does a really good job of kind of balancing out this concept of characters who see the world as a real world and characters who see the world as a just completely false game world.
Yeah.
And then there's all the people that are in between, right? The people because I mean, let's face it, even in our world where we know the game is entirely false, people will still play a game with the same sort of moral set that they themselves have if they're given that choice. You know what I mean? Like,
I think Hugo maybe also kind of tried to because Hugo thought, Tians are real. Of course, my sister must think that too. So that could be another argument that Hugo just put like her own ideals onto her sister because she just imagined that. Yeah, of course she would think that because that's what I think.
Well, I think there's definitely an ideal an idealization between them, right? That Hugo idolizes in a way her sister, and so she's kind of like, my sister couldn't be that evil. And I mean, that was one of those things like at the end of the whole Franklin's game where Franklin basically fires Hugo and says, I'm doing it for your sake. You need to explore the world and not be tied into my stupid schemes and everything else. But Franklin's also like, I need you to go because I can't be as crazy and evil as I want to be because I will keep limiting myself because I don't want to completely ruin your impression of me. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like it kind of like when I was reading the book, I mean, like the whole Franklin's game thing. I mean, it's very much like a shonen battle series thing, right? Like, I mean,
it's like evil bad guy that just wants to cause chaos for the sake of chaos. He's got his minions and they're gonna fight it out.
Yeah, and it's like your low levels that shouldn't be able to do anything manage to do stuff because they're smarter and more versatile and won't give up.
No. It's not neither smarter nor more versatile. It's having exactly the one skill that will help you at exactly the right moment.
Well, okay, yes, okay, but you have to admit, like the way they set
over
up,
and over again.
Oh yeah, but you have to admit though, like the way they set up Rook in particular, like he's supposed to be like smarter.
Yeah.
Like there's no, like that's part of his superpower, if you want, is like he's supposed to be just smart, so smart that he can actually like almost mind read people.
He's so smart that his last name is Holmes.
Yeah, Jesus, like.
Listen, those Holmes genes are very, very potent, okay? Like, it just gives you, like, hyper-intelligence.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he does state that it was his, like, great-grandfather adopted the name, and even though it was a fictional character. Because his great-grandfather was a detective and thought so highly of the Holmes character, he decided to use the name. So they do acknowledge that it's a fake, that they're not supposed to be the Holmes line. But I kind of like, this is the one thing. Okay, so in particular, I would say for this 5 and 6, for books 4 and 5, as much as I love Dendro's kind of really playing with the whole idea of who's role-playing, who's playing as themselves and all this kind of stuff, I have to admit that the backstories kind of took me out of the story a little bit. Like, how many of these people playing in this game have like these outrageous friggin' families that they all end up together? Like Rook's whole thing is like,
it's almost like a form of plot convenience,
right? Like Rook, my father was the greatest detective in the world, and my mother was the greatest art thief. Like, what the like seriously?
And let's not start about Ray's family.
Oh God! Well,
dude, his sister is terrifying.
I want to meet his sister, and we haven't yet in 6 or 7. So,
you know what's funny? I hope that his sister comes up in the game, like this new fucking up and coming rookie, and then Ray realizes it's his sister, the terrifying demon.
Well, I mean, that's like, I love that. I mean, obviously it's a little bit, it's not Franklin's game, it's the next one's, but like, that's where Shu's like, that's why you're afraid of Tsukio, because she's like your bloody sister. She's like your sister. I thought that was pretty funny, but yeah, no, I mean, exactly. Like Ray's family is absolutely ludicrous. Well, okay, I don't know about his mom and dad. He makes it sound like his mom and dad are pretty average, but his brother and sister are like abnormal to the nth degree.
That does actually happen sometimes. Like sometimes you'll have like these families that just are completely normal, but like they'll have children or like grandchildren who are just like geniuses, prodigies. Like that does happen. Now, obviously, it's a bit too extreme in this case because yes, it is a light novel, but stuff like that does happen. Like you'll just have these fucking super geniuses just show up.
So his brother owns like 3 high rises or something.
Yeah,
how did he get the money?
Oh, it was like he won a lottery. Yeah. So basically,
he was also a child actor and also a kick-ass martial arts. Like this guy's a prodigy among prodigies.
He did have that.
And he's also a master chef too. Don't forget. Ray is like, his cooking apparently is next level too. Basically, whatever Shu wants to be good at.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Like, whatever Shu wants to be great at, he basically is. Basically, what it makes it sound like...
This pork is so raw, it's singing Hakuna Matata.
Jesus. Basically, like, he says that because Shu was such a great martial artist, he traveled abroad, and he bought a lottery ticket... I think they are quietly suggesting that he won like a US Powerball kind of thing. Because Ray is like, even once the conversion and the taxes and everything else were paid, it was an obscene amount of money that he then turned around and bought like 3 high rises and basically never has to work again. So, which is why he's online all the time. So yeah, and again, like that's where, and And I mean, even as ridiculous as Shu's story is, it is still realistic in comparison to Rei's sister. And I think still more realistic than Rook's backstory.
Yeah, the one thing I liked about Rook's backstory, and I at the time I read into it, I don't know if it's going to be true or not, but I think there was something to, like, Rook's father was investigating Infinite Dendrogram or something. So it almost feels like he's going to get at the heart of, like, some of the mystery surrounding, is this a game? Is this the real world? Who started this whole thing? It hasn't come to fruition yet, but that intrigues me.
Yeah.
But same here. Like, it's kind of like, this is the character who's going to dig behind, the mysteries, and then he's going to suffer. He's going to find something out that he's not supposed to, and then he's going to suffer an unfortunate accident while jogging.
Well, I agree, though. You're right, Terrence. I mean, aside from the ridiculousness of his parents' background, I did...
Yeah, his lineage is like 1 in a billion, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, and like both parents decide to train him as a master thief and a master detective because they don't want to limit him they don't want to compete with each other, and they're going to let him choose his own path. Yeah. But anyway, I agree with you, though, Terrence, that even if they had just gone with a more realistic, like his dad was just a detective and his mom was whatever, I think that was the one thing that I thought was kind of cool, was the idea that he didn't get into Dendrogram just because he was bored, or because like, with his parents not there anymore and not pushing him to learn new things and everything else, he was like, I don't really have a direction. Like, I've let my parents dictate my whole existence. So what the hell do I even want to do? And then he sees this game and he realizes that his dad was hired to investigate. And he's like, well, maybe I can find some answers here.
I also think it makes sense from, like, what age he's in, because I think, let's all be honest, when we reach, like, our 14s, 15s, and 16s, it's sort of like where we start to branch out and find our own shit that we're into, not just stuff that our parents, like, show us, because, like, as a child, like, you'll have interests, but, like, your parents are going to be more, like, they'll either nurture those interests or they'll try and curve them. But when you get to that sort of age that Rook is at, you sort of have bit more independence and you find stuff that you're more into. So I think it makes perfect sense why he'd feel a bit directionless without his parents there, and now he has got, like, a bit more independence. He's sort of, like, testing the waters, as they say.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how exactly he ended up as a pimp when he's only like 15 or 16. But
listen, he's got that swagger, okay? It's the inherent, like, he's got the swagger genes. He didn't choose the pimp life. The pimp life was bestowed upon him.
Oh, God. Well,
he's got to put those hoes in place.
Like, it kind of seems that way, honestly, but...
Alice must have been sleeping on her job.
Oh, man.
Get back to work.
But I think that's the one thing about Dendrogram that I like, too, is that... and I mean, Marie brings this up in the earlier books that we talked about in the first podcast, how she's like a mangaka and that she's playing the game as her character to try and sort of live that life so that she can come up with ideas for her work. And I kind of like that idea about this book, that it takes gaming to an idea of, you can kind of define yourself. If there was a game that existed like this, where you literally could do whatever you want, it really would give you the idea that you could kind of explore and figure some things out about yourself and everything else with that kind of freedom, and without there being, like, consequences to the real world, right? Quote unquote real world. We still don't know if Dendrograms are real world or not. They're kind of still teasing us with that, but
there are some pretty heavy insinuations about implications. Yes,
I agree. Yes, there's definitely some.
Oh, we're gonna get to that because it's very spicy.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, they don't get into it in 6 or 7, so we're not going to get too much into that.
No, that's in 7. The one I'm talking about.
The one thing you're talking.
Same here, I think.
Which one? You mean the baby?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
It's a boy.
like again, it's that's definitely kind of a weird thing.
Yeah. I never expected them to go there, but I think when we were talking on the last podcast, I think Bio might have mentioned that like that was a possibility, and I was like,
he
are they really going to go there? And
Yeah.
and then they went like further than I expected with like the zygote and everything.
Listen,
and-
there's infinite possibilities. It's infinite dendrogram.
Well, I mean, yeah, the whole like discussion about how like bodily fluids only last so long, and I was like, yeah, I agree that did go pretty far. I was like, okay, so I guess I understand the author's kind of saying it's possible, but it's real hard to have happen.
Did you guys know that semen actually has like enough data to last like 4 gigs? Like it has like 4 gigs worth of like actual genetic data.
That honestly doesn't surprise me, because I know they said there's a project currently happening where they're trying to use DNA as a readable source, and they said something like 1 strand of DNA could basically hold the entire internet. There was like, it was like something ludicrous. Like it might have been like 1 or 2 strands, but they were basically like, yeah, like a box you could hold in your hand. If this works the way that it is, a box you could hold in your hand would be like the whole internet could be on that box. So yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so yeah.
Like, I'm just imagining the buffering time if you tried to fucking infinite dendrogram. Like, I'm just imagining everything, like, slowing down immensely because, like, this 4 gig download.
Well, can you imagine, like, this is the thing about infinite dendrogram, right? Like, it would be impossible. Like, I mean, aside from the whole VR making it seem like you're really there kind of thing, like, you'd never be able to stream a game with that caliber of graphic. And can you imagine being in a VR MMO where you actually feel like you're living there, and all of a sudden, like, you go to run down a hallway and all of a sudden you're frozen and you're stopping because it's loading the hallway? Like, can you imagine? You're like, God damn it, I'm going to die because I can't move.
Like, you're buffering and, like, everything's like...
Yeah, can you imagine?
No, you have that really fucking... Like, I think everyone's here will remember, like, the fucking... Like, the dial-up noise. I was like...
Yes.
It's like, fuck, he's using dial-up.
We can hardly do a Discord recording without such problems.
Seriously, true story. Yeah, listeners, you have no idea how many ups and downs we had just getting ready for this recording tonight.
Yeah, like this podcast nearly died like several times. Like, it's on life support.
Yeah, like
Clear.
But getting back to the children stuff, do you think Hugo could father children in this world?
Like what? Like, I mean, yes. I mean, okay, well, it depends what you're talking about. I mean, from what we have been told, every single master... Okay, well, we don't know about women. But, I mean, I got to imagine it would be basically the same idea. Although, how could a woman stay logged in for 9 months? I don't know if that would ever work. But
I don't think they
Hugo is not a woman in the game.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Hugo's but Hugo's a girl in real life. But I don't think it matters. I think it's only your avatar that matters. I don't think it matters what you are in real life. That's what I think. Again, I don't know.
Infinite Dendrogram is a way for females to become a father.
You could. Yeah. Or for men to become mothers.
That has to be such a weird fucking thing.
Like, I mean, you could actually have a man and woman have a child, and the man is a woman in our world, and the woman is a man in our world. That could technically happen.
One thing I was thinking about was if when Shijima, we'll get to him in a little bit, but like one idea I had about why he was logged out was he maybe had another wife or something that he was trying to explain.
Oh, no.
You know, like that could happen. You could have two families.
You could. Yeah, you're not wrong. And like, seriously, with it going 3 times the speed, I mean, you could spend like 6 hours with your wife and it would only be 2 hours our time. You know what I mean? Like you kiss your wife goodnight. See you later, honey. I'm just going to play for 2 hours. Yeah.
Just hope she never logs in with your account.
Right? I'm sure there must be a way that it doesn't allow you to. Given
I don't think that's possible. Yes.
No, I don't think so. Given how
reads your
customized
mind,
it is,
so it's probably not possible. Yeah.
no. Anyway, but yeah. You know what? Let's just get into 6 and 7 because you know what? Like Franklin's game. I mean, other than the backstories that I think that are revealed, and you know the idea that Franklin is actually a woman, that surprised me. I actually thought
also like Ray gets his like nickname like
Unbreakable. Yeah, and then becomes a pirate.
Yep.
I love how, like, okay, I know that you're up to date bio basically, but I don't want you to ruin it for me, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I really wish that Ray would just embrace the Dark Knight. You know what I mean? Like,
he kind of like basically like no spoilers, but like his armor and powers become edgier and edgier as the series continues.
Well, like seriously, like, and I mean, it's a running joke, it's a gag, like,
someone called him a Death Knight at one point.
I see that happening. Like
no, there's like a video, like there's videos of him now like circling like he's becoming famous.
Oh god!
And one of the tags is Death Knight, the Dark Knight,
oh god,
the Knight of Despair.
I feel like Ray, and I assume this is going to happen. I feel like Ray is basically a recruitment tool now for the kingdom. Like I think people are going to log into Dendrogram and they're going to be like, I want to go to Altar. I want to go to Altar to be on Ray's team or whatever. That awesome player. Yeah.
Ray. No, I'm just imagining Ray like riding up and like everything, like the temperature just drops like all suddenly, and he's riding on this horse with this big dark armor. He's got like this aura of fear that goes for miles. And like Ghosts of the Damned are shrieking.
Like at the end of the main story in Volume 7, he literally gets a coat that's like swallow the light or whatever the hell, like it like absorb light.
And he raises up his vengeance sword, right. And if he sees you wanting, he strikes and leaves with a whimper.
His strike is just tapping you on the head with his sword. He doesn't even have to thrust it.
Right? Yeah, he just has to touch you. That's what I love. Like when they got into that more specifically in 6 and 7, right? They're like, yeah, I don't even have to actually like pierce or anything. It just as long as I hit you with it anywhere, it doesn't matter. I could tap your arm and it'll do 200 times the damage or whatever. Like, oh my god, it's so funny.
Well, I think in the next volume, I think the volume after 12, he starts his own clan.
Oh lord!
And you're the name is. Guess what the name is? It's funny as shit.
I can't even.
Death period.
Oh, death period.
What? Death period?
Yes.
That's just no, please no.
I thought it was going to be Vengeance is Ours.
That would have been good. I think that would have been better. That would have been really better.
No, it could have been Vengeance are us.
Vengeance are us.
We are Vengeance.
Oh my god, it's like the new Batman trailer. I'm Vengeance.
Dude, Ray is Batman.
I know.
He's I'm Ray, unbreakable.
I'm unbreakable. Oh god.
Like a condom.
Oh no. Those are very breakable. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, so 6 and 7. So, because like Franklin's game, I kind of felt like the main thing about Franklin's game, the whole point of that whole arc was to give us more insight on some of the back characters. Like I said, we got Rook's backstory as to his real world backstory. We learned more about Hugo's backstory. We learned about the relationship between Hugo Franklin. We learned a bit about Franklin, about why Franklin has gotten to the point of like, it seems like Franklin is so angry about people trying to take away her power in our world that she is just like bloodthirsty for power in this world. Like that seems to be my thing. Like I think she's just so damaged in terms of like, and I think that's kind of the reason why her dad breaking up all of those like things and stuff. Like I think that was why that was the final straw, was it because he broke something that was precious to her. and he was already trying to take away her life by promising her to marry another man and everything else, and he was trying to take away more and more of herself. And finally, when he broke those, it was like, nope, if I stay here, I'm going to lose everything of who I am. And she bolted, which I can't blame her. And then she became Franklin in Dendrogram and was like, I'm going to own it all, and no one is ever going to beat me and put me down. And she's got issues. What did you think? What did you think of the whole reveal that she lives in Ray's building, though?
A bit too much of a coincidence.
I agree. I agree.
So we mentioned she said that thing about if I could do, what I'm doing in the game in the real world, I would. And like I was talking with somebody online, and they were like, well, lives in that apartment of shoes, so she must have the resources to be able to do pretty much whatever she'd want to do in the real world.
Well, that's true, because the apartment is not cheap. We're told that quite a bit actually in 6 and 7 when we get more of Ray's backstory. We learn a lot more about his sister and how crazy she is. And he reveals that's where we learned that Shu owns these buildings and that he won the lottery, and that's how he bought them. Because we've wondered,
pretty good investment.
Yeah, because we've wondered up until that point, like, how the hell does this guy stay online all the time without having to work? Like, but where's he get all the money? Well, now we know. But yeah, okay. I
I thought it was drugs, but I was really he's like the Walter White. He's like the Walter White of Japan. Like, he's like, this is my county, bitch.
Jeez.
No, big province. Yeah, big province. He'd be like, this is my province, bitch.
And that's how he makes his deals. He actually does it in Dendrogram, and that's how he can't get caught by the police.
I wouldn't trust buying popcorn from a suspicious-looking bear like him.
Let alone your drugs. Oh, God. Can you imagine? Try my cocaine. It's very good.
Just said that these volumes were just setting up story. That's basically the theme for the whole series. It doesn't feel as if it has really started yet. I just finished reading volume 11, and it still feels as if they're setting up the story. They're still introducing new characters every volume, dropping out old characters, like Barbaroy and Hugo and so on. They don't have much screen time beyond volume 7. It gives rise to a whole new cast of characters. So it's I have no idea how long this series will go on, because they do imply a lot of things about the past of the world, but there's nothing really happening in that direction.
Yeah, like, I've read up to 12 volumes. I don't see a fucking end in sight. Like, when you read a series where you can kind of tell that this series that you can kind of tell that you're at least at the halfway point. Like, even if you don't know the episode count, like, let's take, like, just a generic, let's take just a standard anime. Like, you can kind of guess, like, because of, like, story structure and what's been going on, that, like, we're probably at the halfway point, or, like a 2/3 for the show. But, like, for Infinite Dendrogram, I don't see an ending in sight. Like, I mean, the biggest thing that I can see on the horizon is, like, this war between, like, Dryam and, the kingdom. Like, that seems to be, like, something that's going to happen in the future. But, I don't know beyond that. Like, I don't think the series is going to end, like, after that thing happens.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because they haven't really, like, a lot of light novel series, even though they, of course, have individual arcs, there's usually at least one over sort of idea that arches over everything, right? Like, you can have a series where, let's say it's defeat the demon lord. That's your big story. But then you've got all the little arcs in between about how we have to get this armament and how we have to get this weapon and how we have to get this team member.
Or some character's got some drama and we can go fix that.
Exactly.
Character development
so
stuff.
you've got all those things, but because you know what the big idea is, you're kind of like, you can tell how close you're getting, right? It's like, oh, this arc just got us the sword that can kill the demon lord. Well, I guess we're getting close. You know? But there's
the
nothing
only
like
thing
that.
I've seen that might be an overarching goal, I'm not sure if that's been in Volume 7 or later, is that the control AIs want to create 100 level 7 embryos.
That actually is introduced early. That's like back in volume 2 or 3.
Yeah. It's getting picked up later again, but I wasn't sure where it was mentioned first.
Yeah.
So if that is really
like...
the end game for the series, I'm not sure how many level 7s there are at this point of the story. Maybe 20?
There's not a lot. Like because when they're talking in Franklin's game about the superior, that's the superiors, right?
Yeah.
They basically mention
superior masters.
Yeah, like they mention like what, 7? I think in Franklin's game.
I think the central country Caldina has 9, and then Altair and Drufe both have
like
3.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's say 3 is the average for the countries. Then you get to.
I think Tenchi. I think the Japanese style one. I think they have 5 to 4. I think they mentioned it somewhere. They have like a superior.
Let's
or
be
two.
generous and
like
say
they have
it's
a couple.
30 in total. So they have still 70 to go.
Oh God. I mean, the only thing that I can think of, like you're right. They did mention that early on.
That raises the question: why they need 100 of these guys? Like one is already like a demigod. So why would you need 100 of these?
Yeah, that's the one of the big questions that is open for now, and probably for a long time to come, because so far I think we have seen only 3 of the controller AIs.
Not a lot of them. That's right.
Cheshire, Jabberwock was there in the anime, and there was a short scene with Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah.
But I think that was in beyond volume 7. Oh, and I think Caterpillar was mentioned in volume 4, I think, or 3 or 4.
Yeah, like I'm hoping that they get to the heart of like why some characters get these super awesome skills and then other characters get stuck with crap. Like one of the characters mentions that in I think in 7, one of the player killers, he's like, and of course it turns out not to be true for this particular character.
Right, yeah.
He had like an extra skill that he unlocked nobody knew about. But he was like, some players just get, crap like this where they can write, a new skill or a new name on a piece of armor. And then other people get like what Ray gets. Like it definitely feels like the AI is manipulating things, and I don't really know. I think that should be at the heart of what the end goal is.
So
but again,
the AI does
not
care about fairness at all.
No. No,
or
and
game
that's
balance.
Well, and I think that is part of and maybe that's part of the reason why I like the series, is because it does seem like like it does really build in that idea that the possibilities are infinite, right? Because as you said, like the nature of all the embryos are so vastly different. And the abilities that some of them gain as they get to their higher levels are so broken compared to any other game that you could ever play. Like Shu, like I have a mobile land fortress basically. Like what? like
he's got the battleship Yamato.
Yeah, right. Like it's like freaking star blazers and shit going on down here. Like what? Like I just.
What does Ray? What does Ray have? He has a big giant sword, a halberd, and the other thing that he gets in volume 7,
the shield. Well, the shield that then turns into a shooting star or whatever that they.
Yeah, it's his third form is basically, it has 2 functions. It has like a defense. It has like 2 forms.
Yeah.
So his third, the third thing he gets has 2 forms. It has like a shield, like to take the hits, and then when it's charged up, it becomes like a pinwheel they can chuck at people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of a wonder that any Tians are still alive.
Yes.
Like if I think I used to play World of Warcraft for a long time, and when you go to a PvP server, basically most of the time all NPC settlements are dead. You have to wait 5 minutes for quest givers to respawn and hope that you can click them fast enough that you can get the quest before they get killed again. So if this were anything, and this is with guards that are as strong as the average player. So in a game like Infinite Dendrogram,
like even though he's like above average and like power level compared to like the average player, I mean, this guy could wipe out entire fucking towns. Holy shit!
Yeah, and basically any superior can do that. Franklin could have wiped out any town in the country, except that he chose the one where so many superiors were gathering.
Well, and again, that was mainly because he thought that he had it locked down, and he thought that if he could defeat the town while the superiors were there, it would show that they were inferior, right? But,
yeah.
You know,
but
he didn't.
But if he didn't care about that, he could have gone on a rampage through the country.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
And I wonder why there are not more superiors doing that when there are countries at war. That should be a prime tactic to win.
Well, because they don't. Well, they do have that whole thing with the gowl, right, or the goal, or however they pronounce it.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter if you are in a war. You just respawn in your home country and go back after 2 days.
Yeah, but you can't go back to that country because if you die in that country, then you go to the.
If you die there, if you die, you and you only go to the goal if you don't have any save points in any country.
Right. Oh, I thought it was like if your save point was only in the country.
In your country, and if you're at war, if you're acting on behalf of another country, I think it's that way. Maybe I have it wrong.
No, I think you're right. I know it's something about the save points. I think it's if your save point, if you don't have a save point outside of the country where you are wanted, then you can go to the gowl. But if you have a save point outside of it, then you're okay because you're only going to go to the jail if you spawn in the country where you're wanted. I think that's how it works.
So Franklin or any superior could go on a rampage until he's defeated by some kind of some other superior, and then wait 2 days and do it again. And after a few weeks of this, there wouldn't be any Tians left alive.
Yeah. Well, I kind of wonder if, like, I kind of wonder if part of that, no, I mean, I don't know if they'll ever get into it, addressing a character maybe that was like that. But I kind of get the opinion, the superiors that we have seen so far, I get the idea that they are superiors because they have spent a long time in this world. Like, they live in this world as much as they can. And it seems that they want to live in the world, which means they don't want to burn the world right to the ground because then there really is no world to live in.
It's that rule of, don't shit where you eat.
Yeah, but there are superiors like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there are. Yeah, there was that one guy.
Franklin is one counterexample. We meet later on. I will not go into details for spoiler reasons, but there is another superior that we meet later on, and he's basically a spoiled kid, and he doesn't care about Tians at all. He also has no compunctions about killing them left or right.
Yeah, I do. I think that I mean, again, I think it's the game, if it is a game, balances out just because of you still have masters that want to protect Tians. I think you're right. Like,
or you have masters that are basically going to be annoyed that some guy is rampaging through their home, and they're just like, "How dare you!"
Yeah, like I think that's probably why this whole thing is set up, that there's countries that you spawn into to try and build a bit of a sense of belonging to that country, so that you may feel the desire to protect it and therefore protect the people.
Yeah, but as soon as a war breaks out, that would backfire.
Well, I see what you're saying, and I don't totally disagree. As you said, I mean, how many of us have played like MMORPGs where you walk into wherever and it's like, wow, somebody killed a lot of people here. Like, yeah. I remember playing like GTA years ago when my son was just like a toddler, and I left the room for a second. Then my wife starts laughing, and I'm like, "What happened?" She's like, "Your son just picked up the controller, pulled out a katana like it was nothing, and just started chopping people down in the street." And I was like, "Oops." Maybe not the game to play with my kid in the room, but anyway. But like there's those games you can just do that.
They grow up so fast.
They really do. And actually, what's funny is that one has no interest in video games at all now, but whatever. But yeah,
He got traumatized by GTA.
Yeah,
he got traumatized.
That's right.
He won't grow up to be a gamer.
Nope. But you're right though. Like I think that there's definitely, when you see the level that the superiors are capable of, especially when you say, like you said, I mean, if you consider that there's maybe only 20 to 25 of them right now, and they want there to be 100 in the world, like that's like pretty massive alteration to the terrain. Like that's pretty crazy, honestly.
It is, and the length
I don't think anyone will survive 100 of these guys. Like,
and the length they are going to create those 100 is pretty extreme as well. We have heard about the UBM that Shu, Tsukuyo, and Figaro defeated together. That three-headed dragon.
Yep.
It's not much of a spoiler. Volume 11 will be the long version of that story.
Oh, okay. That's not a spoiler.
I'm not going into details again, but it causes widespread destruction, and the control AIs do not care a shit. Okay, a few of them do, but not some of them.
It becomes like an ends justify the means kind of thing. Like, they don't want it to happen, but they're like, this is the only way.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if do you guys, have any of you read the manga of Gantz?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I won't get into spoilers, but basically, like, it starts off where you think it's one thing, and then it kind of does a complete 180, and then you find out that basically it's like all this crap that these people have gone through up until this point was to prepare them for this one big end thing that goes on. I don't I mean, that's about as vague as I can be. So I kind of,
accurate.
But yeah, it is. It's as accurate as possible. So I kind of wonder if, like, this is the thing. Like, we have this assumption that infinite dendrogram could possibly be a real world, but what if it's not? What if there is, though, a real world that needs these 100 superiors for a reason? And so they're using dendrogram as a way to basically create those masters to then take them to that other world. Like, that's kind of where I think, I mean, that's kind of my thinking.
That would happen about in volume 53 or so. The control AIs, they do have an agenda. It is not explained yet, but starting in volume 8, you see a bit more of what is going on behind the scenes with the control AIs, who they are, where they come from, about the history of the world.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. I was a bit disappointed that we are only doing up to volume 7 today, because volume 8 would have a lot of stuff to talk about.
We'll have to do another one.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when we learn about Tomcat, like...
Well, okay.
No. Now you're getting into spoiler territory.
Yeah, let's not go into spoiler territory. So, but I mean, okay, so let's talk about like 6 and 7. So 6 and 7 was like the first time that we really actually see multiple players outside of the game, right?
Ray goes to basically, like, Ray gets kidnapped by the Lunar Society.
Yep.
Figaro busts some caps and basically helps him escape. Then he logs out and he meets the very same person who tried to kidnap him, but now in college and in real life.
Yes. And she's like, what, a third year, and he's a first year. Is that, if I recall? Because B3 is a second year, right?
Yeah, she's trying to bully her co-high.
Yeah. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I
Remember
have to say,
we talked about coincidences earlier?
Oh, yeah, this is a big one, too.
I mean, it's not as big. I mean, a college is a big place and it has lots of gamers. So, and they were specifically advertising for people who play this specific game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of okay compared to living in the same apartment as Franklin.
Like the only thing that I thought about the whole Franklin thing is I was kind of like, does she know that it's Shu's apartment building?
She probably has no way of knowing that.
Like, that's what I think. Like, don't get me wrong. I think you're right. But I don't know. I just was kind of like, I wonder if there's a reason I wonder if the author's going to try and create a reason for her to be there beyond it just being a coincidence. But anyway. But yeah, you're right, though. The whole college thing is a lot more believable. Also, I mean, this whole Lunar Society we're told
Shu is the guy she was going to be married to.
What's that?
Shu is the guy she was going to be married to.
Oh, fuck. That would be funny. That would be really funny.
Oh no.
That would be awesome. I'd really like that twist. That would be great. Can you imagine? Oh my god. Anyway.
And she's living at his apartment building and they meet up like again and it's like, oh shit.
But even better than that, when they find out who they are in game. That would be great. Okay, that's an aside.
I don't think the city of Tokyo will be standing afterwards.
No.
I hope the author is not listening to this.
I know, right? Seriously, we're gonna give the author all sorts of ideas. But like,
although if he is watching, ohayo gozaimasu.
I do think that the whole well, and I mean, Ray does say like he's going to University of Tokyo, so it's like the premier university, and we do get the idea that this cult exists in the real world and that's been around for many decades. So it's not that unreasonable that high-ranking members of it would be at a prestigious college as well, right? Like that was where I kind of thought
this is one of the things that this is what cults do. Like they infiltrate. Like this is what you do. You infiltrate these areas to get more followers. So it makes complete sense.
Well,
that, a couple of them would be in these colleges because how are you supposed to get new members? Oh, you infiltrate. You infiltrate.
But it's not even infiltration because it's a known fact that they are, and that's why the club has no members because people are like, it's creepy. We don't want to hang out with these Lunar Society people. Like even BB.
Considering the Japanese history of cults, I'm not surprised because they've had some fun ones.
Like that, yeah. I mean, that's what B3 even says. She's like, yeah, basically nobody wants anything to do with this because of them. So she's like, I'm only in it because I want the info. I'm kind of sad to hear we don't hear much about B3 after 7 because I really like her.
Yeah.
We do.
A bit?
She shows up more.
Okay, well, I'm glad she shows up more.
She's a member of Death Period.
Okay. Oh my god, I'm never going to get over that. So yes, Bio did mention this back when we did our first recording about kids and them being able to have kids in Dendrogram. Now, embryos cannot have kids. I thought that was stated. I have to go back and remember. Like, it seems like masters can only have kids with teens.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I don't think it's ever explicitly stated, but
Yeah, let's hope so, because I don't want it to go that way. Anyway, so we have one master who has managed to impregnate a Tian that he's married in the game.
Achievement unlocked.
God, can you imagine getting a trophy for that? Jesus. Actually, you do get a trophy for that in Skyrim, but you adopt the kid. You don't actually have the kid. But anyway, that's a whole.
The game developers don't want more Dragonborn running around.
No kidding.
Those with the dragon blood, like Tidum Scepter. Just imagine Drogo goo goo gaga, Fusradar.
I was just gonna say, can you imagine your 3-year-old friggin' dragon shouting the house down? Anyway, although I will admit, I gave one of my daughters a dagger in Skyrim, and when I came home, she was wailing on this practice dummy with that knife. I was like, damn, girl, you are vicious. Anyway, that's total aside. But yeah, so they basically say, unless you're in this game for weeks on end, there's really no way that you can have a child, because the second you log out, every part of you, including your, bodily fluids, disappear.
Yeah.
So unless you've been in long enough that the egg has been fertilized, there's no go. That's what they say. I did kind of wonder, though, if a girl master got pregnant in the game, and then she logged out while she was still pregnant, would she still be pregnant when she logged back in?
I don't think we should touch that with a 5-foot pole, because that's a weird question.
That is a really weird question. I don't know. It's a very weird question. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, you're probably right. That's probably not a place to go. Because it just brings up a whole bunch of weird ethical shit that, Anyway. But yes, so they can have, but at least a male master, if they stay logged in long enough, could potentially have a child. And I think they say, don't they say that the kid in this one is what do they say? It's not the first time it's ever happened. I think they actually say that there's been, oh no, it's the marriages. They're it was the 22nd marriage or something like that between a Tian and a master.
Yeah.
So that happens too, apparently. I've lost everybody.
No, I'm still here.
My jaw is dropping to the ground.
Why?
Although on the plus side, you can have your own virtual waifu.
Well, I mean,
not virtual.
Again, this is where
it's real world.
It's one of those things that it brings up an idea that you could go ridiculously crazy ethics discussion on, but the book just kind of tiptoes around it. And carries on,
Yeah, it's this big giant bombshell that has all these fucking questions, the value of life and
right.
It raises all these questions, and I'm just I'm almost half tempted to write a paper about this, but I'm already busy doing other shit. But it's
it is weird, right? I mean, this is one of those things where you and again, Infinite Dendrogram, that is one of the things that, again, I like about the series. And it basically told us right at book 1, this is a world of infinite possibilities where you can do basically whatever you want. And so now we've gone everywhere from, take whatever quests you want, be a villain, be a hero, whatever. Now it's
raise a family.
Yeah. Get married, raise a family, have an actual kid. This is where, again, it's these kind of things that you start going to yourself, how can that be a video game? How can this, you know what I mean? I that's where I kind of wonder that's where I'm they're really blurring the lines between.
Yeah, by now it's pretty, I'm pretty certain that it's not a video game.
No.
I just don't see how it can be, right? I mean, there's just too much freedom. There's too much possibility. If
there is too much prehistory.
That's the other thing, exactly, because in book 7, he goes to that whole, there's that festival, the Falling Star, Shooting Star, whatever festival, Wind Star Festival, and that's the whole thing. They're like, yeah, this is like a story that we've carried in a festival we've had for like 300 or 400 years because of this thing.
In volume 8, you get a glimpse at events that happened even farther back.
Wow.
Now, I mean, admittedly, it's not like games can exist without backstory. I mean, you know, all sorts of RPGs have those kind of histories, but
Yeah, but it talks about Tians that were alive back then, and some of them, I think, asked. Basically, the control AIs were alive back then. There are. I just noticed there are some interesting parallels between this Infinite Dendrogram and Log Horizon. Because in both stories you have adventurers, masters that are practically immortal and can always respawn when they die, and you have Tians / people of the land who do die if you kill them.
right.
I wonder if there will be any relationships between people of the land and adventurers down the line in Log Horizon. I wouldn't be surprised, but so far,
Well, I mean, they started
skirted around it.
involving. Like they brought
there
that
are
one.
there are some pretty sweet moments between them, but no downright relationships, which is a bit surprising considering the situation there. But maybe the author just doesn't want to go there.
Well, I mean, it could be. But then, you know, the whole thing with Log Horizon, though, is that it still hasn't presented that the world they're in is a game. They've been brought into the world of the game. You know what I mean? Like, it's still more of an isekai than what this is. Like, this is still, it's supposed to be a game. I mean, even if we all suspect that it's not, there is still the ability for these characters to come in and out of the game.
Both figuratively and literally.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, the author went there. What the hell?
And I'm going there.
Well, I mean, you know. But, but that's what this is. But it just, again, like all of these stories, I feel, I mean, yes, it's all building Ray up. Obviously, I think I kind of feel, and again, this is just my feeling, but I kind of feel like we're not going to get the end game of what this story is about until Ray is a superior himself.
That goes without saying, I think.
Well, but I mean, I don't know if we're even going to get, I don't mean like that's where the series is going to start ending. I mean, I don't think we're even going to know what the bigger story is.
Yeah.
Until that happens. Like, I kind of feel like I can imagine the author kind of having a couple of characters around Ray all getting to superior, like Rook and them, at the same time, and then they'll be like, oh, and by the way, there was like another 50 elsewhere in the world, so there's 100 now.
There might be a time skip somewhere. I'm not sure.
Maybe. I'll be interested to see how, because in books 6 and 7, of course, Ray is just starting college, right?
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to me to see how the author, and I mean, I'm sure he must by the now that we're in 11 books, but how the author balances that whole demands of Ray's real life with the Dendro life.
If he was like a no-lifer, he would be leveling up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he's still taking breaks from the game to do his thing and everything else, but that's, I am curious to see that. I'm curious to see if now, I mean, maybe you can answer me this. It's not really a spoiler, but do we get a little bit more of that whole real world stuff going on in the book?
Yes.
Okay, you don't have to tell me any more than that. That was just my question. Because again, that's kind of what I like about Dendrogram, is that it's not just about,
especially in volume 12, especially volume 12, because let's just say that sparks are flying, and I'm not saying about weapon sparks.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
Okay, haven't read volume 12 yet, but until then, there's not really much in the real world from 8 to 11.
Okay. Well,
Maybe a few side stories.
well, that's okay. Like, I just, it's not like I want to read half a book about Ray's day-to-day life, but, I still liked that. I still liked that glimpse of him, like, going to college and, meeting other players from Infinite Dendrogram. I kind of like seeing the whole, like, how people are in real life compared to how they are in the game.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think this is. Oh yeah, and I think we should also mention that like Shu was going to rescue Ray, but couldn't. He couldn't leave the city, and I think that's where we meet the Queen of Beasts or King of Beasts.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's in 6. Yeah. I mean, we find out in, in 5, we know that there are other superiors in Gideon that don't seem involved in the plan. And then, Shu continues to remain in the city in 6 because of at least one of them, which, is of the beasts who stayed behind.
Yeah, by the way, I think we see them this volume, but the actual maiden, the woman that you see, that's the embryo. The porcupine is actually the player.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're a maiden master.
Okay. I think that's a spoiler, but okay. But it's not a big spoiler, but that's pretty friggin' funny. Okay. Sure. All right. Well, that would make sense though. That would make sense given how she deferred to the porcupine so much. So
yeah, the porcupine's the actual player, and she and the woman, she is a maiden guardian type.
Funny. Well, and again, right? Like that would make sense why it's the King of Beasts and the Queen of Beasts. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, you really find out like that there's more crazy applications of like player character kind of things in these volumes in particular. Like there's Rosa, who is like
a beast.
I forget. Is she like
she's like a wolf
like a
or
lion,
something, or no? She's like a wolf or something. Yeah.
And then there's the giants. Like you can be a humongous giant if you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like you don't have to be a human at all. Mm-hmm. Even though like basically everybody we've met up until this point has been, which I think is kind of funny. I don't know whether that's like, I can't remember when Ray was picking his character, whether that like they made much of that option that he could be a non-human, but I'm trying to remember that, but yeah, this is you're right. Like, I mean, it feels like, well, I think this is what like Mirage and Bio are saying, because they've read further ahead, is that, all these volumes, like they're good, but again, like they are all more just about adding layers to the world and building Ray's character up and advancing Ray's journey and Dendro and,
And the author love just like leaving little hints at things that will come up later.
Oh yeah.
Like there's like a newspaper article Ray reads really casually on the web, and it's like earthquakes causing something, which I think was something related to Black Sky. And then there was like a bunch of stuff on there. There was something about the player killer, and there was something else that was a volume 3 thing.
Yeah.
Or a volume 7 thing. So like
he loves doing that's someone else's problem.
Yeah, he loves introducing like new stuff, and then sometimes they don't come back to it. Yeah. Like sometimes it's just left hanging.
Like I was really surprised that Hugo didn't show up in 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Like I thought for sure, even if she didn't show up like as much in Ray's story, I thought there might be at least a little side thing going on, because like they made such a big deal of Hugo's character in books 3 and 4 and 5, and then and 5.
From what I know, Hugo is like not in that country. Like she's in the desert country at the moment.
Well, I mean, again, like I just kind of thought that the author might shift a little bit to tell stories about other characters, but
They do. We do get like a chapter dedicated to Hugo, like in the future.
Oh, okay.
And it seems like they may be building up where Ray and Hugo will meet up again.
At some point,
well, like
yes.
Marie too. Marie didn't get like anything in 6 and 7 either, right? Like she was at the beginning of 6.
Yeah.
And then she just kind of, when Figaro decided to help Ray, she disappears to go do something, and then I don't think there was ever even a side story about it.
No, but I imagine maybe they cover it in another volume.
Yeah, but like I've kind of forgotten her. Like now B3 is the new hotness, you know? Like she's the new
B3.
player killer.
Yeah, and same for Rook. Rook is also gone in 7.
Yeah.
And B3 will be gone in 8, and all the supporting characters are more or less gone.
Oh yeah, a thing I really liked about the 6th volume was that conversation between Nemesis and the Maiden Master of Tsukio.
Oh yeah, yeah, about the whole thing about eventually masters leave, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that you should be honest with your feelings right away, so at least you can move away on, or at least build memories while they're around.
So do you think she'll confess soon based on the conversation?
No, like I couldn't see that.
No, I don't want to kill your enemies for you, Baka.
Yeah. I couldn't see the series working as well with that. If like I don't know. I kind of that's one thing that I kind of don't want to see is the whole romantic thing with Ray and Nemesis. I kind of want them just to remain partners. Kind of like what whatever his name was, Kijimi or whatever, in
Shijima.
6 and Kojima? Okay.
I think it's Shijima.
Okay. Between like him and he had like a maiden type embryo, but they were clearly not romantically linked because she just joined the family as part of the family kind of thing. So I kind of like I like Ray and Nemesis's kind of relationship. I kind of like it's almost like brother sister kind of thing. I prefer it to stay that way.
I never saw any danger of that changing.
Well, but I mean, they make it clear that Nemesis seems to think more of Ray than just as her master.
I haven't seen any of this. I haven't interpreted it this way.
I know she was talking to someone like in a future volume in a fucking bath. So
she gets jealous of B3 a few times in 6 and a little bit in 7.
Yeah, and then that discussion that she has with Tsukio's maiden. Basically, the maiden is like, you like him, and Nemesis does the very typical anime girl. No, I don't, but you clearly can tell that she does. I mean, it's heavily implied. Like, it's not like Nemesis has come right out and told someone, "I'm madly in love with Ray." At least not by these books, and if she does later on, I don't want to know about it because it's a spoiler. But like, it's heavily implied. It's kind of like I find that this is the thing with Dendrogram, right? Like a lot of it is very heavily implied. Like it's the same thing as the world, right? We all suspect that the world is not just a game, but definitely by the 7th book, the author has done nothing to really come right out and do anything that makes you sure. And so it's not even a situation of like the audience knows, but the players don't. None of us know. like we all just kind of suspect, right? But I do like that they even mention that the players themselves kind of suspect that too, right? That there are players that are kind of like, there's no way this is just a game. I like that aspect of it too, that there's certain times in the book where characters will say things that I'm thinking about the book as well, and I'm kind of like, oh, I appreciate that the author is thinking about the reader and going, they totally are thinking this right now.
Like if I was playing this game, if I had a game like say Infinite Dendrogram was real and I was playing this, like I'd be pretty fucking suspicious as well at some point.
Well, I mean, like you like I said, you just have to sit there at one point and say to yourself, like, how can this be programmed? Like, you know what I mean? Like how can you create an AI so intelligent that you can populate a world with millions of individuals who just go about their day-to-day life? You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah. And I do like that idea that you brought up earlier of like it could be like a training simulator or something for whatever the real Dendro is that's out there. I don't know, but I do like that kind of idea. Yeah.
Does anyone know in which volume they describe the jobs of the control AIs?
I don't remember.
Don't remember.
Is that before or after 7?
well, they discuss the
Probably after.
Well, they discuss the AIs a little bit in volumes 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're very throwaway little passages.
Maybe just it's not really I don't think it's a spoiler because I don't really know if it's true, but every one of the control AIs has their own job. Alice is responsible for avatars. Caterpillar is responsible for environmental management. Jabberwock is creating the UBMs and so on. I don't think there's any one of them responsible for creating Tians. There's one for creating embryos, one for managing items, one for events and quests.
No, you're right. No, they don't mention that. They don't mention that at all. So you're right.
Yeah, it's in terms of like the mysteries of the world or whatever, I was hoping that Black Sky would have a little more connection, especially where it's such an ancient thing. I don't think it really had. There wasn't as much of like this is gonna, this thing is connected to the beginning of Dendro. It just was a thing that existed.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Well, I mean, they make it such a primal thing that it doesn't have much thought. So, yeah.
And I loved it had a thought at the end, and it gets cut off.
Yeah.
So what was even the point of?
But since it is classified as a UBM, it has to have been created by by Jabberwock. Because all UBMs have been created by Jabberwock.
So does he just like he obviously this thing that existed in the sky supposedly wasn't a UBM until the light of like a burning city cast its way up to it, and then it decided.
I think there are instances where Jabberwock decides to reclassify something to UBM.
Okay, yeah. So it became a UBM. He had to punch the button, but it kind of got its consciousness, and then he's like, okay, well, I'll give it to it.
Yeah. Well, I think that, that's exactly what it did, because it says it was basically just like a rock floating in space or whatever, absorbing the light until it suddenly became aware of violence.
Yeah. And I liked that they did kind of the parallel theme of like copying somebody, and like so obviously there's this player killer that comes into the story, and Ray and B3 have to deal with them. And this player killer, you find out, was copying the armor set of B3. But yeah, like they did like that dual thing where they both were copying, but they both didn't copy quite well enough. And they were just, inferior to their originals. To like in terms of Black Sky, it was, they just stole, the emotion of this guy, but they never really became like the despair or whatever.
Well, and I think that it was that whole idea too, that they were like, it never even really thought about why it felt that, and why, and I liked how, well, and I like too that they bring out the whole thing that like when Ray destroys it and there's this beautiful light in the sky that it's like it creates the complete counter behavior and emotional response from people. And I think that's kind of where that thought that it has that gets cut off was starting to move was, what if there's other ways, like I only focused on this one idea and I've copied this idea constantly because it was something that made me feel something. But what if there was other ways that I could have felt things like what?
And I think you're talking about like a creature that is very like inexperienced, like it has hyper intelligence, but it hasn't had like the experience to like it has not experienced life. So of course it would focus on that one emotion. It's like imagine like a self-aware AI that's just being born like in a second. Like it doesn't have the experience that humans have or the life experience or anything like you could be like super intelligent, but if you have no practical experience, like you are very limited in your ability to do anything. And I think I think how the author writes that is very interesting and fascinating because this creature is malicious, but it's hard to describe it. Like it is a malicious entity, but it isn't by nature malicious.
It's a childlike maliciousness.
Yes. Yeah, like it really is written as basically a thing that became self-aware, but became self-aware because of one particular stimuli. And so instead of seeking out other stimuli, it just continues to focus on that one stimuli, right? Like so yeah, I think you're right, like Mirage, when you're saying it's almost childlike. It's that idea of like, because kids, they become hyper focused on one thing for a long time, right? The one thing that they really love, they focus on it for a long time, the famous, the favorite toy or whatever. And that's what this thing is like. It's like it became
pulling the wings of flies.
Let's not go there. But it is though, right? Like that is kind of the idea, is that this thing becomes aware of emotion, becomes aware of something other than just existing. But unfortunately, the moment it does that, it is this basically act of evil. And so that's what it copies, and it just keeps doing it because it associates it with that stimuli.
It doesn't know any better.
Right, exactly. And then, it's knocked underground, and all it does is just keep fostering that sort of thing. Like it doesn't grow and develop because it's in stasis, basically. So it is interesting. Like it is this, I thought it was kind of cool that they told things sort of from the monster's point of view. Cause, how often do we just have these sort of kill the big monster of the week kind of thing, and you don't really get that backstory, or you don't get the motivation of the monster. It was sort of the same idea that when we talked about like volumes 1, 2, and 3, when we were talking about like the gang that Ray takes down.
Cannibalism.
Yeah, but like their whole thing was like they felt so inferior and so afraid because of the masters and what the masters were capable of doing. That was why they were doing these absolutely horrible things, because they were trying to find power that would put them on the same footing, so they didn't have to feel inferior. They didn't have to feel afraid. And I thought that was really interesting in terms of showing how the masters themselves, just because of the nature of their powers, can have almost a negative effect on this world as well, right? Like by proxy. Like it's not even like obviously, you can bomb the shit out of a forest or kill a city or whatever, but even just by existing and presenting that capability, you change the world without even directly acting on it, I think like this is one of those series that, if you dig deeper into it, it does have some cool ideas. And it does go places with the whole like freedom of choice that a lot of other stories don't. And I do enjoy the whole idea of characters being one way. Like, we meet B3 in real life, and how she is in real life compared to how she is when she puts that armor on.
Dude, she's terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like Doom Rip and Tear playing like High score.
Like, she's death metal for sure, dude. Like she goes from being this, upstanding, prim, proper, helpful senpai to like psycho bloodthirst, like
rip and tear until it is done. I'm just imagining like a lot of the side characters from like I'm just starting in a band, and as she goes like rip and tear, there's playing like the doom fear, like all they fear is you, like down now 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 dun 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 dun.
I loved how Ray was like, she was like so concerned. Oh, if he found out I was a player killer or whatever. And then Ray's just like, nah, it doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, right.
I'm friends with 20 player killers.
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and he's like, and she's like, not even that I'm a PKer, but that also, I have such a different personality in the game. And he's like, girl, like, have you met my brother?
You're mild.
Like, right? like I'm friends with a journalist / superior killer.
He's friends with Figaro.
Right? My brother walks around in a bear suit making bear puns and then turns around and like decimates an entire countryside and kills like 50,000 monsters in one go. Like, yeah, you're good. No problems.
He's like, yeah, you're like the most mild thing I've seen today. Like, I'm friends with a pimp, okay?
Yeah. And I loved at the end when they had the little cute interaction where I forget, was it her name that they were talking about, or
Oh, yeah.
it was yeah, I think it was something about her, and she was like, well, it's cool, isn't it? And she just gets like so embarrassed.
Yes, because they're like, should we call you Barbary now or should we call you B3? And she's like,
oh yeah,
well, call me B3 when I'm not in the armor, but when I wear the armor, call me Barbary. And they're like, for real?
She's like, call me Barbary. She's like, call me Barbary. Like, she's like, Barbary senpai.
Well, I think it was just, again, it was just that like that sort of gamer geeky weeby sort of like thing, right? Like
Dude, I would love to have a name like B3.
Bloody Barbaroy.
Yeah, right.
It sounds
burn
cool
Barbaroy.
as fuck.
Yeah, I thought that was that was pretty funny actually.
Blood, blaze, blitzkrieg.
But I mean, I think but it is one of the things that I like about this story too, is like, yeah, I mean, all the side characters are kind of interesting and they all have these interesting backstories and, but given that they're not in the book a ton, I think that shows that the author's like pretty good with creating interesting characters. Cause yeah, I totally read more B3 stuff. And yet she was only introduced like, 6 books into the series. Right. So yeah, no, I must admit, like, I basically powered through these 4 books all in one sitting. And I hadn't read Dendro since we did the last podcast, which I think is like, what, a year and a half ago or something?
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I was sitting there and I'm reading these and I'm like, man, why is it I didn't keep going with this series?
Yeah, I gotta keep reading.
Well, you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think I'm gonna have to keep going. But I started buying the print books, so I'll have to wait a little while to get caught up. But oh well, it's all good. All right. Well, you know what? We've been going for almost 2 hours, so
Yeah, I'm getting tired. Like I'm losing steam.
so I think we'll cut it off there. Our next episode, we are going to return to a Reiki Kawahara series, the one that, funny enough, actually made him famous so that Sword Art Online could get released. I mean, it's sort of funny how that goes, but that's how it worked. And that is going to be Excel World. We're going to talk about the first, I think, 4 books in that one, because that's what their anime covered. And so that will be our next episode, and probably by then we'll have a couple more licenses to talk about as well. So, yeah. In any case, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And to, of course, you listeners, thank you very much for listening. And until next time, bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And recording.
For show notes and related links, visit lightnovelpodcast.com.